Nice apartment. Anyway, right. So enough distractions. Shall we get to the business at hand? Shinjin.
Let's get right to it. As always, Jodo Shinshu, first, last, and only.
And always, yes. Shall we do some Nimbutsu first? We always try to say we're going to try to remember to do that, and then do some.
However, I have not yet found my ninju, so I'm going to do
All right, well, I've got my small one and my other one, so I've got enough for both of us today.
Okay, great. All right, yes, let's start with Nimbutsu.
All right, great, yeah.
Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Refreshing, isn't it?
Indeed, as always. Yes, and it's just a good way to start. I just think, where you get into talk, it just puts the mind in the right frame of reference. Frame of reference and frame of reverence. Frame of reference and frame of reverence. Yeah,
good.
Which is important, I think, for the bamboo mind. It doesn't hurt for us to get into a frame of reverence once in a while. Yeah. So anyway,
absolutely. And reverence is really about, we go through our daily lives thinking that we are the smart guy, right? And that we have and that we make the decisions, we do the, it's all on us, right? But then reverence is more about recognizing that we're not all it, and that there's something else that is more important than our daily obsessions, compulsions, and so on and so forth. So it's in Buddhism, bowing, the act of bowing the head and reverence. And whenever we do gasho and say Namo Amida Butsu, they in Japanese temples they will say Rai Hai, which means to bow your head in reverence to the source of great compassion and unending light. So very important.
Definitely gets you into that, at least some modicum of humility, for at least that, that service or that session or that,
Exactly.
Yeah. So, right. So, shall we had something we were going to pick up on from last time about joy. What the meaning actually is that the writings of our Dharma masters talk about when the actual meaning of the word and the actual meaning in Jodo Shinshu of what joy actually is, referring to there, in all of its multiple meanings. I expect there will be, but and also we can go over some of those the writing and the poems that you sent me. I think that would be good to bring in the discussion. But let's cover this part first, because we did say in that last session for the Shinjin session, the Shinjin series, that we would come back to that topic about joy.
Right.
And I think I've come up with a title for this series. It's going to be Shinjin, Something Special.
I like it. Very good. Yes. Great title. Something very special indeed.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, making a little reference there to various things, and also
a little.
You've got the alliteration. You've got the alliteration, the three S's. There, so it's all good. It's all good. Anyway,
very good. Well, I did. So, speaking of our last conversation, I did a little bit more digging, as I am wont to do, and I discovered something very interesting about that passage from the end of Kyogyo Shinsho. And the way I discovered it well, first of all, should we reread the passage that
Yes,
we're talking
yes,
about?
definitely.
Just to be,
Do you have it there, or
let me
what?
bring it up here.
You know what chapter it was in? I've got my copy of Kyoyo
Yeah,
Shinshu.
it's in the final chapter, and it
Oh yeah,
is
that's right. Yeah.
the chapter on transformed Buddha bodies and lands. And let me find here.
The final chapter is it's quite a chapter. It's quite long.
It is indeed.
It's kind of
very long.
like it is kind of like almost a third of the entire, or more, I think, or half
Yeah.
of the entire, almost
Yeah.
half of the, yeah, almost
I
half.
wonder what would happen. Exactly. And it has some very interesting, some very lengthy passages from some esoteric sutras. And I think the purpose, I think the introduction to the translation you're holding actually talks a little bit about that. But yeah, it's a very interesting chapter. It's discussing, other Buddhist paths and ways and how they relate to the 18th vow, right?
And was it the transformation? What was the chapter on the transformation?
Well, what would happen if I tried to share my screen here?
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, let me allow that. I need to allow that actually.
Okay.
Bear with me a second. Let me get there. Hold on. No, I don't want to share. I just want to allow sharing multiple participants. There we go. You should be able to share now.
Let's see how this goes. Here we go. Okay, share. Did it appear, I wonder?
It has appeared.
Okay, great.
So what?
This is
it's 118 is the in the chapter.
Yes.
The number of
the
the section is 118.
Yes. The section number is 118, in which Shinran Shonin is describing his conversion basically to the primal vow.
And of course,
he talks about Honin Shonin allowing him to copy the Senjaku Hongan Nimbutsushu, which was a Master Genku in 1205. Master Genku, who's Honin Shonin, out of his benevolence, granted me permission to copy his passages on the Nimbutsu selected in the primal vow, which is the Senjaku Hongan Nimbutsushu, the Honin Shonin's masterwork. Actually, in Jodo Shinshu, we especially kind of take Senjaku Hongan Nimbutsushu as Honin Shonin's sort of master work and main work. And that's where, for us as Jodo Shinshu followers, we really derive our understanding of Honin Shonin's teaching.
Okay.
But Honin Shonin, of course, there's a lot of other writings associated with Honin Shonin, right? Anyway, so down towards the end, so here's the passage. How joyous I am, my heart and mind being rooted in the Buddha ground of the universal vow, and my thoughts and feelings flowing within the Dharma ocean, which is beyond comprehension. I am deeply aware of the Tathagata's immense compassion, and I sincerely revere the benevolent care behind the master's teaching activity. The master in this case is Honin Shonin. My joy grows even fuller, my gratitude and indebtedness ever more compelling. Therefore, I have selected passages expressing the core of the Pure Land Way and gathered here its essentials. And this is Kyogyo Shinsho. Mindful solely of the profundity of the Buddha's benevolence, I pay no heed to the derision of others. May those who see and hear this work be brought either through the cause of reverently embracing the teaching, or through the condition of others' doubt and slander of it, to manifest Shinjin within the power of the vow and reveal the incomparable fruit of enlightenment in the land of peace.
Namo Mirvatsu.
Namo Amida Butsu, Namandavits. And this is the passage we were discussing last time. And something I found out, and the way I found out is I was reading, should I stop sharing? I wonder. Well, hold on, let me explain. So our Jodo Shinshu Seitin, the Japanese version, it's sometimes called the Chu Shakuban because it's annotated. So at the bottom of each word, let me see if I can show. Actually, let me go ahead and stop sharing so that this will be full screen.
Okay.
Let's see. How do I do that? I wonder. Oh, here we go. Pause share. Wonder if that'll work. Your screen sharing is paused.
No, it's still showing. I might be able to. Yeah.
Let me stop.
There
Okay,
it is.
there we go. So in this book, as you can see here.
Can I just ask you, just make sure
absolutely
screen sharing was only paused, not your anything else. Just make sure that, yeah, okay, all right. I just don't want to wind up listening to this later and then you're gone or something.
Yeah. Am I visible?
Me talking to myself. Yeah. Anyway. So anyway, sorry.
Okay. Good. As you can see here, you have the top part of the page is the actual text itself. So in this case, Kyogyo Shinjin. And then at the bottom, there are all these annotations. Of course, this is in Japanese, but and words that are hard or phrases that are hard to understand or things that might need some more explanation are all sort of annotated down here at the bottom of this. So it's this book is very useful. And in the back, it has a glossary, an extensive glossary of terms relating to Jodo Shinshu. And really, really helpful and detailed definitions and analysis of terms. So you can look up, as we're going to in a bit, we're going to look up Shinjin Kangi, the joyful faith, and then see what it says about that. Okay. So I was reading the passage sort of in preparation for today's conversation, and I noticed something very interesting. So right here, let me just read the first sentence in Japanese really quick. Yorokobashi kana, kokoro o gusei no butsuji ni tate, omoi o nanji no hokai ni nagasu. And this is the passage, the line that goes, how joyous I am, my heart and mind being rooted in the Buddha ground of the universal vow, and my thoughts and feelings flowing within the Dharma ocean, which is beyond comprehension. And
the obvious thing here in the room is it would kind of go without saying that joy would be your response to that experience.
Right.
Like it kind of like, why wouldn't joy be your response to that? What that first set, what he was describing by that first sentence. But anyway, this is kind of that's the obvious thing to point out initially. But anyway,
exactly. Yeah, it's a response, right? And it's a natural response. It's not something we have to like, I'm going to be joyful,
generate or cultivate joy or something. No,
yeah. So here's an interesting note at the bottom of the page here. And it's talking about this sentence. Daito sai ikiki kan-san, maki-san, so the seventh scroll of, I'll give the translation after. Let me just read it first. Kokoro o butsuji ni tate, jo o hokai ni nagasu toyu mon ni yoru. Gusei no butsuji wa hotoke no honga no daichi ni tatoita mono. So the Daito Sai Ikiki is the Great Tang Record of the Western Regions, which you may have heard of, but it's the record of Xuanzang's, the Chinese monk who went to the West to get scriptures from India and from in Gondora to bring back to China.
Okay.
Journey to the West is a famous novel, sort of fictional account of
that.
Yeah,
I have heard of it. Yeah.
The Monkey King and
yes, exactly. I was going to say, the Monkey King became a myth in and of itself just from that. Yeah, from that. Book.
But
I mean, obviously borrowing from trickster mythology, obviously.
Right.
And putting that into the book, but it became like this thing in itself that where people think that the Monkey King was some kind of actual like part of Japanese Chinese mythology or something. But anyway,
right. And this is some pictures of the book, that Daito Sai Ikiki, so the Great Tang Record of the Western Regions. And this is a picture actually has Xuanzang, you can see on the right. And then this is Daito Sai Ikiki. So this work, let me see if I can, which one was it? According to Wikipedia, this was a record of the Buddhist scholar Xuanzang's 19-year journey, and he went to the west of China and into Central Asia and finally even into India. And he wrote a detailed account of all of everything he saw, everything he experienced, and the object was to bring back the scriptures to China, the Buddhist scriptures to China. And this work was actually it's considered to be a very important record. It has one of the earliest textual evidences for the Bamayan Buddhist sculptures, which were tragically blown up by the Taliban in Afghanistan.
Very sad.
Very sad indeed, but very important book. And according to, let me go ahead and stop sharing. In this book, the Tang Record on the Western Regions, there is a passage that says to base the mind on the Buddha ground and to let one's thoughts flow into the Dharma sea.
Boom. It's already there. It was already there.
Yeah.
It's already there.
So this was, and it's interesting because Shinran is actually in other places. Shinran talks about the joy of discovering, encountering. He uses the term the scriptures and the writings, the sutras and the writings from the masters of India and China. So if we sort of see Shinran as kind of seeing himself almost as Xuanzang, discovering the Pure Land Way, coming in to Japan. But there's a key difference. Shinran actually, he borrows this phrase, this sentence, and then he expands on it. And what does he add? It's very interesting. So instead of Butsuji, which means the Buddha ground, Shinran adds Gusei no Butsuji, which means the Buddha ground of the universal vow. So he's expanded the meaning of Butsuji to mean Amida's vow, the 18th vow, the private vow. And then in the Omoi o Nanji no Hokai ni Dagasu, he adds, instead of just Hokai, the Dharma ocean, he adds Nanji no Hokai, which means the inconceivable Dharma ocean.
Yeah.
And so that is I thought that was very interesting. And I never knew that. I discovered
Very
this.
cool. Yeah. That he's, perhaps borrowed that phrase, or if that phrase either borrowed the phrase, and kind of expanded it, or perhaps that was a sort of way of framing that in Buddhism in general, that, do you know what I mean?
Right.
Just turned up in,
Yes.
you know what I mean? That place, and that, they just independently were using that, but it's kind of cool either way.
Which is certainly possible.
Yeah.
It may Xuanzang himself may have been using a sort of stock phrase, that
that's what I mean. That maybe was used in Buddhism, in the Buddhist cultures and Buddhist circles, kind of, Buddhist. I'm looking for it, but among monks and teachers and things, or what have you. They just, but either way, if they independently arrived at it, is cool. Or if he has taken that and borrowed it, and expanded the sort of meaning of it, is great. I just in Jodo Shinshu, who would the Monkey King be? Sorry. I want to have a Monkey King. I love the Monkey King. Anyway,
the Monkey King would be us, I think.
I was just gonna say, I think we're the. It's exactly what I was thinking. That's exactly what I was thinking. I think we're the Monkey King. Exactly.
Always getting into trouble, basically.
Causing trouble. Getting into trouble, causing trouble.
Yeah.
Bit of a clown.
I like the story where he is on the Buddha's palm, and he keeps like running and running and running, but he can never get away from the Buddha because he's on the Buddha's hand.
Yeah.
It's great.
They're fixing all kinds of things, but kind of referencing the Angulimala situation, where it was more like Angulimala couldn't catch up with the Buddha, no matter how he, how fast he ran. And the Buddha didn't change his stride at all. He was just walking like a Buddha does, just the perfect, in that perfect way. Didn't change anything, but somehow, anyway, it's kind of a different, but it's similar. He's trying to get away in this case, rather than trying to catch up with him. But anyway, Anyway, great stuff. I wonder sometimes the Monkey King. I wonder whether it was. I mean, obviously, this general trickster mythology was, inspiration there, and probably some other things, satire kind of things, a little commentary on certain other things going on at the time, probably, or in history. But I wonder whether that it is somewhat related to, is it Hanuman, the monkey god of Hindu? I wonder if there's a
Hanuman, maybe.
Hanuman. Hanuman. Yeah, Hanuman. That's right, Hanuman. If it's somehow there's a link there, because there's that similarities of the
definitely
God kind of, but anyway, neither here nor there. Let's coming back. we digress. We come back.
So that was a little thing that I discovered. So I thought that was very interesting how Shinran added the universal vow, the Buddha ground of the universal vow, and then also the Dharma ocean that is beyond our ability to comprehend. It sort of deepens the meaning of that phrase.
Yeah.
And
as Shinran is always wont to do, is always doing, deepening everything else, flipping and deepening the meaning. For us.
And I do want to point out one more thing about this passage before we move on to the joy, the question of joy, let's call it.
Is there anything else you wanted to kind of flesh out about that? Or did you want to? Those phrases.
No, that was it. the Great Tang record of the Western regions is, you can actually get the English translation in the Ukkyo Dindo Kyokai, the BDK Tripitaka series, translation series.
Oh, okay,
So
excellent.
if you're ever interested to read
Cool.
that,
Oh, interesting.
you can get it. Yeah.
Excellent.
I own it, but I haven't read it, which
Okay.
I need to say is a problem that does occur. Owning books that I don't read.
This is what I love about these sessions. We discuss these kinds of things, bring in these aspects of things that maybe sometimes aren't, fleshed out. And I noticed that in lectures I've seen, and I like that about lectures and presentations and sessions I've seen of BCA. Videos on YouTube where they, they'll bring in, these aspects of things you wouldn't know if you were just, all focused on the teaching, which of course we need to be, but there's more to focusing on the teaching than just the writings of a Dharma masters. There's they sat within, there's the, they sat within history, and they sat within cultures, and they sat within, other things going on. So I think it's important to bring those, do you know what I mean? Things in.
Absolutely. Anyway. I completely agree. I think the context is important. And I think especially for seekers like you and I, who are from a Western background and coming to Jodo Shinshu, we may have actually a broader understanding of what Buddhism is than, say, a Japanese person who was only raised in one denomination of Japanese Buddhism. So I think especially for people with that sort of background where it's like, Theravada and possibly Tibetan Buddhism and, all kinds of Buddhism, right? I think it's important to put things into their context, and then you can make, and that's what I love about Reverend Ducour's lecture, is because he has this vast knowledge of the art and the history and the texts, and he can just make these connections, and it's like, oh, well, now I see, like the connection we just were able to make today about Xuanzang and Shinron and Kodoshinsha. I mean, that's like, wow, I never knew that before. And I learned that simply because I was reading in my Jodo Shinshu Seitin, and I looked at the annotation. So yeah, I agree. The broader, bringing a broad perspective. I mean, that's why it's called, Gusei.
Study broadly. Yeah. Go ahead. Sorry. Yeah.
Well, Gusei, like Gusei no Butsuji. Gusei means the broad vow, or the universal vow, as it's often translated, but broad.
Yeah,
we're talking
exactly.
about the ocean here. We're talking
broad,
about
expansive, inclusive. Yeah.
Yeah.
All inclusive, all expansive. Yeah. Definitely. Huge. Yeah. And then also, I like, Dr. Matsumoto talks about in at least one of his lectures about the 3 ways to interpret a text. I can't remember what, there's the context of, there's sort of the historical, cultural context in which the writer lived. Right. And then there's the context of the text itself. And then there's the context of like the author themselves. Right. So I think those are the 3, and I can't remember what that's called in sort of Western kind of scholarship, I can't remember what those 3 are called, but anyway, which I think it's important to do that as much as you can. We don't all have to, we're not all scholars. We can't all be scholars, and we can't all have that capacity to be scholars, but whatever our limitations, I think we should try to kind of study broadly in that way and bring those things in as much as we can, because I think, it's important. I think it's kind of, needs to be done for deep listening. That's part of deep listening,
Right.
as far as I'm concerned. That's part of deep listening. So anyway.
And if we don't do that, we end up in the situation where we might have an overly simplistic or a sort of insufficient view of the text and its significance and what the meaning and the context is, and the historical, which is all very important. I do think, though, that although that is all, important, there's also the relation between myself and the text, right? So the personal,
definitely.
That's where, Shraddha or faith comes in, and these sorts of things, right? There has to be,
Definitely.
who was it said? I believe it was Reverend Unno said, in that How to Listen to the Buddha Dharma. We should listen to it as if it's for me. This is like me listening to my doctor giving me the explanation of my,
ailment, and ailment diagnosis, prognosis, and treatment.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's the most, from a religious sort of, so to speak, perspective, that's the most important aspect of the text, the textual encounter, is the how do we encounter and get meaning from the scripture, right, or from the sacred text, in my view. So any thoughts to this point? I guess we're about halfway through our conversation today.
As often happens with these things, there's so much to discuss, and it takes so much time to discuss it in language, in the language of the human realm. It takes a while. Plus, it's just so enjoyable to discuss that you want to dwell on it. Really, Anyway, but so I suppose that's part of the joy, actually, of the Dharma, is just that itself. Our enthusiasm. I kind of look at myself and yourself as Dharma enthusiasts. We're not just Jodo Shinshu followers. I think we're Jodo Shinshu enthusiasts. We're
I'd like to think so, for sure. Yeah. Indeed.
But yeah. So I mean, well, the main thing that kept that I talked about it earlier is the response part of it. I think that's a really important aspect of is our response to the Dharma. While we're on the journey, is that joyful response that just comes from when you hear the Dharma, or realize the meaning of the Dharma, or realize the implications of it, or that just comes just as a natural response, however long lasts or not last. But there's definitely a natural response there, and I think now, as far as the lasting part, I think in Shinjin, when Shinjin is settled, when Shinjin arises fully and is settled in a person, they I think it sounds to me like, from the teachings, and when people have talked about that experience, and of course you have to take it you just have to take it their word that they have Shinjin, but because people I have Shinjin,
which is a whole other problem.
That's a whole nother discussion, which we discussed before, actually. But anyway, but you, even the writings themselves, it seems like there's a joy that comes also, not just in the process of encountering the Dharma, and the process of Shinjin arising, but when that's settled, there's a full lasting joy that takes place within a person of settled Shinjin, because of the reality of that state. it's not a mental, it's not a it's not a special mind state or anything like that. But to, if you in settled Shinjin, knowing without doubt, hearing without doubt, knowing without doubt, with your heart, mind, that you are saved by Amita's vow, that you're going to Pure Land when this life ends, and knowing also simultaneously you've become your true bamboo self. The combination of all of that, it seems like the response would be joy that would not end, would not be kind of come and go. There's going to be a constant joy, underlying joy with that. I'm not saying people be, dancing in the street and in the aisles and the, of the temples and, and in their daily life. Oh, I'm so joyful, I'm not saying that at all, because we're still bamboo, we still live in samsara, we still have to go through this brutalizing existence on every, because of our karma, according to our karma on every level. And, the cycle of, for the rest of this lifetime anyway, we still have to go through that. Because the karmic roots, if you're settled Shinjin, karmic roots are cut for the future. For future karma, it's cut, but you still have to, the plant still has to die. The plant is still alive. It still has to live out its karma in this lifetime. So I'm not saying, but it seems to me the implication is there's a lasting underlying joy that isn't a coming and going kind of joy. Maybe our awareness of it, but because we're bamboo and we just have these diluted minds, mind streams, but there were, that's the other issue too, is some of the joy that I think you can experience joy just before settled Shinjin, quote unquote, before. That's that's a human samsaric being concept, I think, of time before Shinjin, or as Shinjin's arising, or in the process of before Shinjin is settled, and it seems like it kind of, in my experience anyway, has been, there's times where I'm just like, yes, that's so true, and I just have I just have a sense of confident joy underlying that. Yes, I'm a Jodo Shinshu Buddhist, and I know that somewhere within my heart mind, the recesses of my heart mind, I truly know it's true, but I still have my doubts, et cetera, et cetera. But so sometimes there'll be joy about that, and then other times, you know what I mean. But there still is this underlying joy, which is interesting. But anyway, just not to get too far into that weeds, but it does seem like there's a difference between the joy of someone with settled Shinjin and the joy of someone in their response to the Dharma and the, and the truth of the teachings. That's a bit different. You know what I mean? I mean, that could just be my own perceptions, I think. But is there something in the teachings where because it seems like that the joy arises with Shinjin. It's part of Shinjin arising. It's part of. So I suppose, if it's a process like we've talked about, then the joy will be will also be arising before settled Shinjin, to some degree. But anyway, this is one of the things I wanted to talk about with this aspect of Shinjin, is how all that works according to the teachings.
Right. I think the one passage that came to mind that I think would be helpful is this passage from Notes on Essentials of Faith Alone, in which Shinran is talking about this one mind is the Shinjin of leaping crosswise. And crosswise means across, leaping means going beyond. This way surpasses all other teachings, and through it one quickly goes beyond the great ocean of birth and death, or samsara, and attains supreme enlightenment. Therefore, the term leaping is used. It is made possible by the power of the vow that embodies the Tathagata's great compassion. Very important. It is made possible by the power of the vow that embodies the Tathagata's great compassion. The Shinjin becomes the diamond-like mind, or Kongoshin in Japanese, because of Amita's grasp. There's some words missing here, but it should be because of Amita's grasp. This is the threefold Shinjin of the primal vow of birth through the Nimbutsu, and not the three minds of the Contemplation Sutra. This is a little bit technical, but he's referring here to the three minds mentioned in the Contemplation Sutra versus the Larger Sutra and so on. But that's a whole nother topic. Bodhisattva Vasubandhu declares that this true and real Shinjin is none other than the aspiration to become a Buddha. This is the great thought of enlightenment of the Pure Land. This aspiration for Buddhahood is none other than the wish to save all beings. The wish to save all beings is the wish to carry all beings across the great ocean of birth and death. So this wish is the Buddha's wish, right? This Shinjin is the aspiration to bring all beings to the attainment of supreme nirvana. It is the heart of great love and great compassion. This Shinjin is Buddha nature, and Buddha nature is Tathagata. This ties into the passage I sent you from the Nirvana Sutra, the Mahayana Nirvana.
Yes. Should we read that now? I'll bring it up.
Yeah, let's go ahead and read that, because it's directly related to this.
Get to it quickly. Okay, yeah, got it here. So, quote, Buddha nature is great Shinjin. Why? Because through Shinjin, the Bodhisattva Mahasattva has acquired all the paramitas from clarity to wisdom. All sentient beings will without fail ultimately realize great Shinjin. Therefore, it is taught, all sentient beings are possessed of Buddha nature. Great Shinjin is none other than Buddha nature. Buddha nature is Tathagata. Nirvana Sutra, as quoted by Shinran Shonin in the Kyogyo Shincho.
Yeah, and here it is, right here. This Shinjin is Buddha nature, and Buddha nature is Tathagata. It's the exact same. This is from the Nirvana Sutra. To realize this Shinjin is to rejoice and be glad. People who rejoice and are glad are called people equal to the Buddhas.
Boom. So this is a joy. This is a joy that is sorry, just to interject there. That's well beyond any conventional conception,
right?
Conceivable conception of joy. Just that,
exactly.
Those two sentences alone. This is not just, oh, I'm just so joyful that something's happened, or I have such a great life, or whatever. You know, this is something beyond that. This is a step beyond, as they say. Right.
And let me just read a little bit. Okay. It's a transcendent joy, right? It's a joy that is not dependent on the circumstances of our present life,
or my calculative thinkings that I was just describing, without pointing out that it was calculative thinking just moments ago when I was describing, the preliminary joy, the preliminary pre-Shinjin. Anyway, all that calculative, it's beyond that. It's beyond the joy that could be experienced from a calculative perspective or mind. Anyway, yeah.
And it's a joy that comes from hearing, without hearing and being free from doubt, which is what Shinjin is, right? Is to hear the message, the command, the call of the vow without calculating in any way.
Yeah.
And
it is obvious though. It seems if that was the case, like, of course you'll be joyful. Do you know what I mean? Like I said in the beginning, like, of course. Yeah. There's I can't see any other response to that than, than joy. Anyway, continue, please.
Yeah. So I just wanted to read this. To rejoice means to be joyous after being assured of attaining what one shall attain. It is rejoicing after realizing Shinjin. So
that's what I was saying. That's what I meant when I was saying you have the hearing without doubt, knowing without doubt that your birth is secure. Like it says here, to rejoice means the joyous, means to be joyous after being assured of attaining what one shall attain. It is rejoicing after realizing Shinjin. Yeah, sorry.
Right. So assurance, being assured, the mind of assurance. And sometimes Rinyo Shonin actually, in Gobunsho, his letters, he often uses the term anji for Shinjin, which means an is the character for peace, and then jin is the shin or mind. So the mind at peace, or the mind of assurance.
Yes.
That the mind that is assured of attaining what one shall attain.
Yeah. I'm so glad you pointed that out. That's so affirming to my experience of things when I was trying to describe, because along the way I see that, the way I see that, or to some extent experienced joy about the teachings with my encounter, the process of being immersed in the teachings and listening and everything, is there's a peace. It is a peace that goes with the joy. It's not like it's not really I suppose there's an aspect of it where you're jumping through, you just really feel that joy bubbling over, but there's a real peace associated with it, a kind of underlying subtle kind of peace that, and it's assurance. Yeah, it's assurance. It's what it is. Joy, assurance, peace, kind of all together. Anyway.
Yeah. Exactly. And then he continues, to be glad means to always have joy uninterruptedly in one's heart and constantly keep it in mind. It means to leap and jump, expressing boundless joy. So do I always have joy uninterruptedly and constantly keep it in mind is a question that I have to ask myself. But I think, we're talking here about really a transcendent joy or rejoicing that again is not dependent on my mind,
exactly. It's not.
So very important. And to leap is to dance to the heavens. To jump is to dance on the earth. The person who has realized Shinjin is also likened to the white lotus flower. So this is Shinran's discussion of joy in Notes on Essentials of Faith alone. But where, you might wonder, where is this? Why do we talk about Shinjin and joy? Why do the two go together? And it's the important passage here is from the larger sutra, in the second half of the larger sutra, where in the passage on the fulfillment of the vow, it says, all beings, as they hear my name, realizing one moment of Shinjin and joy, then enter the stage of non-retrogression and are born in my land. So Shinjin and joy.
It's so clear. It's so clear. That's so clear, that just that statement of what it is, what Shinjin is. It's such a clear you know, explanation or transmission or whatever you want to say. Could you throw that up one more time? Could you put the but finish your thought. There's one other thing I wanted to say about that.
Which one? The passage from before?
That we were just now looking at. There was I wanted to keep going with that last bit of that passage where it's defining the different words and terms.
Let me share it real quick.
But continue with your thought about that. What you just the statement you just quoted from.
Well, what I wanted to say is that especially in Jodo Shinshu and in Shinran's thought, the passage on the fulfillment of the vow, where it talks about Naishi Ichinen Shinjin Kangi. I think I got that backwards. It's Shinjin Kangi Naishi Ichinen. But one thought moment of joy and faith. That is like the most important passage in Jodo Shinshu. Hearing the name,
yes,
and then having one thought of joy and faith. That is like the sort of the key almost, because the 18th vow and the passage on its fulfillment are like one. They're like a set. They go together. You can't have, the fulfillment is just as important as the initial declaration of the vow, right? To that Dharmakara Bodhisattva made. So that's where Shinjin Kangi, the joy and faith, comes from. And then go ahead. So what did you want to
that's that makes sense. Choman, isn't it? It's it comes down to, it's that encounter, it's our encounter with the vow, with the fulfillment of the vow, is that one thought moment. Isn't it? That's our full not encounter, but our full experience, I guess. That's where the extraordinary, inconceivable, transcendent realm of Buddha mind and everything we were just talking about here intersects with our bamboo nature and existence in one thought moment of Choman, kind of. Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. Hearing, and it's in the larger sutra, it's Mongo Myogo. Shinjin Kangi Naishi Ichinen. So here Myogo is the name and title. So Amida Buddha's Namo Amida Butsu is how Shinran interprets it. But the name, whether it's Kimyo Jinjippo Mugeko Nyorai or Namo Kashigi Kobutsu, the name that expresses what Amida is, as we hear that name, and then realize Shinjin Kangi, realize faith and joy, Naishi Ichinen, one thought or one thought moment. Now, the Naishi Ichinen that's a whole nother conversation, because what that means is actually it doesn't just mean, one thought, oh, I had a thought, like today I was going.
No. It's like, it's the every, it's like, it should be said like almost the every thought moment of all time since beginning this time. Thought moment. It's the every moment since beginningless time thought, encapsulating the beyond. I don't know. It's anyway. Sorry.
That's important to point out. But so that's where that discussion of faith and joy comes from.
Yeah, and this has made me also think there's another part to the joy that I could want to kind of point out that I see in the teaching is that part about where we are born into the Pure Land, or our birth is assured by becoming none other than our bamboo self. So that's a lot of self-acceptance there. That's like the ultimate self-acceptance, where you're not, because you stop reflecting on, in Shinjin, you stop reflecting on, oh, am I this? Am I that? My karma this,
Right.
my karma that, good, am
Yeah.
I a good person? Am I a bad person? You just accept, you fully accept the relief, just out of that part of it alone, the relief of not trying to calculate my way out of being a bamboo, or trying to figure out how I'm a bamboo or how it worked. Like just the relief of just that acceptance, that in itself, the response would be joy. That, do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
That level of
Absolutely.
self-acceptance. And like I said, I've had glimpses of that when I just realized, yeah, I'm just a bamboo, and I need to be that. There's just there's no way for me to go, really. But I don't stay there. You know what I mean? But but if you have that level of acceptance, it's that that's another implication of teachings that I like to draw out here as part of the joy of
Right.
just going, yeah, I'm a bamboo. I don't need to try to strive and figure it out and calculate anymore. It's what I am. Like just that,
Right.
on
Yeah.
a deep level of heart and mind. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
That I just don't have to struggle so much anymore about all that. It just is
Right.
what it is. This is what I am. This is,
And
yeah.
beyond, I would say, even on top of that, you
Yeah.
have the joy of being embraced and accepted
Yes.
exactly as you are.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, we
Yes.
can say, in fact, in the
Simultaneously.
poem,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
simultaneously,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. In the poem that I sent you by Okaru and Yokonin from the Edo period, I believe, she
Shall we read
uses
it?
the phrase.
Yeah. You want to just
Well,
refer?
it's quite long, so maybe we
Okay.
should maybe we
Do
should
that for
read the
next
whole
time.
thing in the next time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. But quote what you were going to say. Yeah. Sorry.
Well, I was going to say that she uses the term in Japanese, sono mama. And sono mama, you often hear in Japanese circles in regards to Shinshu, and it means just as you are, or just as it is. Sono mama, just as it is. And
Yeah.
Amita's salvation in the vow embraces us just as we are. We don't have to bend ourselves into a pretzel in terms of morality or doing certain practices or any of that. The vow completely embraces and accepts us just as we are. So that joy of being, embraced and accepted just as you are is part of what you were talking about with the self-accept, goes along with the
Yes.
self-acceptance,
Yes.
right? It's
Definitely.
the two, aspects, which, yeah, you're right. It's joyous, and it's also
Yeah.
assurance, and it's also relieving,
Yeah. Huge.
which is all what it means, what the term Shraddha or Anjin or
Mm.
Shinjin means, right? So very important.
Yeah.
I do
No,
want
excellent.
to one last thing, and then we can close
Can
up.
we, before we go to that, I just want to, on a little bit of a lighter note, can you
Yes,
scroll
please.
back up a bit to the
Oh,
beginning of
sure.
that?
How far
That's
around?
good. That's good. So where, and this is just on a lighter note. So a
Yeah.
thought I had earlier, I didn't want to interrupt the flow of our discussion at the time to say this, but where it says, perhaps you could read that first sentence that we read, the Shinjin becomes the Diamond Light Mind.
Yes.
So
This
you
one
could
right
read
here.
it. You could read it in sort of the contemporary vernacular. So you could say, Shinjin becomes the Diamond Light Mind because Amita's grasp. Do you know? Do you know?
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what I mean?
You could.
That's the thought I had earlier, but I was like, oh, I don't want to interrupt the flow of the conversation to point that out. But that's how in my mind, I heard it that way.
Yeah. You could. I didn't even notice that.
Yeah, sorry. So carry on with what you're gonna take us out. Take us out with your
Yeah.
final thoughts here.
Okay, my final thought is on the and this ties into that the being assured of what one shall attain aspect. And this is in the Yodo Shinshu Seitin, the passage or the entry in the index or the glossary about kangi, so joy, the joyful in joyful faith, or Shinjin kangi, joy and Shinjin. So so kangi, ocho eru koto o yorokobu koto. So to rejoice at receiving birth in the Pure Land. Kanarazu ojo dekiru to yorokobu kokoro. So the fact that one can certainly attain birth in the Pure Land is what the heart rejoices at, right? Mata, kan wa mi ni yorokobu koto de ari, gi wa kokoro ni yorokobu koto de aru to mo iu. So this means the kan, there's two characters, the kan, gi. Kan means to rejoice in one's body, so to speak, so physical feeling of joy. And then gi is to rejoice in one's mind. So both, every aspect of joy is contained
everything
in kangi. And
it would seem from that other the passage in Shinjin you just shared, where it's toward the end of what we were looking at. Oh, there was one other thing I want to look at that, but it was talking about the dancing and the very physical things. So it's joy of body as well, not only joy of mind and heart, but joy of body. It's the whole thing, because it, leap, to dance to the heavens, to jump, to dance on the earth. So that to me suggests the body as well. So it's joy of mind, heart, and body, to me.
Yes.
In Shinjin, to me. And there was one other quick thing while we're here.
Please.
Where it says that last bit, to leap is to dance to the heavens. That, not the last bit, but the last bit we looked at. To leap is to dance to the heavens. To jump is to dance on the earth. The person who has realized Shinjin is also likened to the white lotus flower. Boom.
Yeah.
That's a pretty, that has always struck me, that statement, that we're likened, the person who has Shinjin is likened, or has realized Shinjin is likened to the white lotus flower.
Yeah. Or Myokomi in Japanese.
Yeah. And it also kind of suggests when a person of Shinjin, of birth, assured birth, when they die, and they are immediately born in an open, fully open lotus flower in the main, in the fully realized main reason of the great main kind of area, if you want to call it that, of the Pure Land. What is it too? There's the borderlands. What is it? The realized and the provision. Is it, what is it, the realized?
Right. The true, the fulfilled land.
The fulfilled land. That's it. Fulfilled land.
And the transformed land, which is always hard to remember, because the birth by transformation is the fulfilled land.
Right.
The true. We can call it the true Pure Land, right?
Yeah, the true Pure Land. Yeah. So you're born as from a white lotus flower, from a lotus flower, fully. Yeah. Fully as a Buddha at that moment in the Pure Land, which is anyway. That's kind of. But to me, it goes beyond that statement. It just has always struck me as something not just referencing that, just referencing a whole lot of other things. It's just a power, to me, it's just a powerful likening there of a person of Shinjin at, to the white lotus flower itself. It's,
Right.
that, not the Buddha sitting on the white lotus flower, not the, it's the white lotus flower itself.
Yeah.
Fully opened, fully in full glory.
Yeah. And that's not just after birth in the Pure Land, but in this life. Right?
In this life. Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. In this life. That's what I mean. That's, when your birth's assured in this life. Salvation in this life means you are likened to a white lotus flower. There's just something really
amazing
that's always struck me about that. It's always been very powerful about that. But anyway, coming back to what you're saying. So the joy is it's comprehensive. It sounds like what you were saying, that last thing you're referencing. Can you say it again? Say it fully in Japanese and then say it fully in sort of an English translation.
Let me stop sharing so I can see it is, I lost my place. Okay, kangi. So ojo eru koto o yorokobu koto. Kanarazu ojo dekiru to yorokobu kokoro. Mata kan wa mi ni yorokobu koto de ari, gi wa kokoro ni yorokobu koto de aru to mo iu. So this means to the meaning of kangi, Shinjin, joyful in joyful Shinjin, is to rejoice, rejoicing at receiving birth in the Pure Land. And specifically, the mind rejoices at the knowledge, at the fact that one will assuredly attain, can assuredly, is enabled to assuredly attain. Again, kan, the kanji, the Chinese character kan, means to rejoice in body, in a physical sense, and then bi means to rejoice in mind. So rejoicing in both body and mind. That's the
body and mind.
Yeah, kangi.
Mind, body, heart, and mind.
Yeah,
mind, heart, and body.
This
all
is,
one.
This is
all one at the same time. Sorry. Yeah.
Because the joy, or the rejoicing part is, this is how the Shinjin we receive is expressed on our side. So this is called, I think, so high. So the actual sort of expression of Shinjin on our side, right, is this rejoicing, this aspect of rejoicing. So, doctrinally, it's a very important point of Jodo Shinshu. In fact, we certainly should continue to explore and discuss how the relation between, Shinjin and rejoicing and also, let's not forget too, the, shish, joy, sincere mind, faith, and the wish to be born. That's an important discussion as well.
Aspect. Well, there's so much. There's so much. In just one topic, there's so much, like joy and rejoicing. The aspect of Shinjin is like, it's just, there's obviously so much. But just if you start, taking each aspect of Shinjin, I mean, that's why I created a whole nother series for this, because it deserves it can only be discussed to some small degree by its own, set. That's why I did this, because there's just so much to there's so much to cover with that. So we'll pick up this again, we'll pick up this thread next time, maybe start with the poems next time, because that was related to,
that'd be great,
of joy. And by the way, I just want to say, I love I love hearing Japanese. I love hearing I so strongly wish I had learned Japanese, and and so I could listen and hear the teachings and read the teachings in Japanese, because I could literally listen to Japanese like all day long. Not even, and that's not even knowing what they're saying, but I literally just
It's a
love
beautiful language.
how it sounds, when someone's speaking Japanese in a very calm way, or in a very, just a very, just an everyday way, in a quick way, in a very ferocious way. Like, it doesn't matter, whatever way it's being spoken. I just love the sound of it. There's something about it, but that's just kind of a sign.
As do I. Japanese is a beautiful language, and we're fortunate to have, some of the most beautiful words written in Japanese in our literature. And although I have to say my pronunciation is not very good, so do keep that in mind. But I'm doing my best.
Exactly. Anyway, so yeah. Well, thank you once again. This has been a fantastic discussion. Really, really good stuff.
Yeah, I enjoyed this conversation. This was a good one for sure.
And I mean, so many of my questions, doubts, and barriers are around these things, I'd say.
Yeah.
If not most of them. So this is a good series in that sense as well. Dharma dialogue to be having. So great. So thanks so much. I hope you have a great evening.
You too. Or have a great, I should say.
I can't wait till the next section where you say, okay, I have sent I've written, or whatever it is. I'll wait the next Tokudo update.
Right.
Anxiously.
Okay.
I've started the application, or I've written it now, or I've sent it off, whatever it's going to be. I wait next.
Okay. Great.
The next update. So excellent. Well, take care. Shall we do some Nimbutsu to take us out?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah. So let's close with Gasho and Nimbutsu as well. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda Butsu. Namanda. 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 All right. Well, I will see you again next Sunday, perhaps.
Yes.
I think should be fine.
Yeah,
I'll let
good
you
at my
know
end as well.
Yeah, if there's all right. Sounds good.
All right. Take care.
All right. Take care.
All the best. Bye now.
All right.
Bye.
See ya.